1999 saw the release of Silent Hill for the first PlayStation, and introduced many to the concept of psychological horror in video games. Playing as everyman Harry Mason, you set out in an abandoned town of Silent Hill to find your lost daughter. Creepy enemy designs, mind-bending puzzles, and an intriguing and mysterious story all made for a survival horror classic. Now, over 20 years later, is it time this acclaimed title got a full remake? What's going on, everyone? This is Ryan from Game Essays, and quick reminder before we jump into the content that hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying the content on the channel. Also hit the bell for any notifications on upcoming videos. But looking right at the topic of a Silent Hill remake, one of the reasons I would love to see this is honestly the Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes have really opened the doors in the minds of a lot of people about what a game remake could be, and has just wanted me to see that same treatment happen for the original Silent Hill. I know we've had Shattered Memories, which was really a reimagining, but it's so far departed from what the original Silent Hill is that although I think it's a good game and one of the better Silent Hill games that weren't the original 3, that it's so different that it really doesn't fit what I would like to see for a true Silent Hill remake. So I'm going to kind of jump into a couple different topics about why I think this is becoming more and more necessary, but one of them honestly being accessibility. So I think the Silent Hill genre, the survival horror genre, but the Silent Hill series really is becoming less and less accessible. We've had the HD collection, but that was a total disaster, and those are really just complete unoptimal ways to play the game, and pretty much people just pretend like it doesn't exist. So when you look at the first, and not to mention the first Silent Hill game was not included on that, but the only way to play the original Silent Hill game now is either on the PlayStation 3 store or to find a disc yourself through game shops or whatever, which right now the prices have skyrocketed to where it's, somewhere between $70 to $100 just to get the original PS1 disc for Silent Hill. So obviously the most convenient way is through the PlayStation 3 store, but many people with PlayStation 5 coming out have probably traded in or sold their PS3, so it's becoming harder and harder for anyone who wants to go back and experience that game. And it doesn't seem like, since it wasn't on the PlayStation 4 store, I'm anticipating it won't be available on the PlayStation 5 store. So it's just, we're getting further and further away from these games that I feel like are as important as your Marios or your Zeldas or your Resident Evils. And you look at Resident Evil, and that's, so many versions of it are available on the Switch and a lot of other newer consoles that, Capcom's doing a great job of keeping all the Resident Evil games alive, and I feel like Konami is just completely dropping the ball with Silent Hill, and I think people have been saying that for years about Konami. So accessibility definitely being another thing. A remake could kind of bring the series back to the forefront, as well as even maybe having the original PS1 version on the disc. If they were to come out with, like, let's say a PlayStation 5 version of Silent Hill, why not put the PS1 version just as a bonus feature on the game? So not only are you coming out with a remake that this game desperately needs, but you're also preserving the original game in a newer format. Obviously, graphical style, being able to see a lot of the environments in Silent Hill 1, which you only see kind of glimpses of in the PlayStation 2 era. So it would be nice to see a lot of those locations get a nice graphical upgrade, in seeing kind of that version of the other world in HD graphics would be really, really awesome to see. Another great thing I would love to see on the remakes is extending some of the content that was a bit short. I think the beginning half of Silent Hill is really strong, where you have the school section and the hospital, which seem like very fully fleshed out areas of the game. But then the second half of the game, you kind of quickly go through the mall and the amusement park and the sewers and things like that. You're kind of jumping around to smaller locations, and then the game ends. So I think in the remake, there's a big opportunity to extend both that shopping mall section, which is really just a quick little sequence into a boss fight, and the amusement park, which is also relatively short and leading also to a boss fight. So, Silent Hill 3 definitely extended the amusement park a lot more, but I think there's an opportunity to do that in Silent Hill 1 as well. Also having kind of the more over-the-shoulder style, I think, could be really cool. Still keeping it that third-person perspective, but maybe a little bit more similar to a Resident Evil 4 style or the Resident Evil remake style, where you're a little bit closer to the character, and that kind of leaves a little bit more opportunity for, scares. You're a little bit more, you don't see as much of a room, so it's a little bit scarier to kind of go through an area since the camera's in a little bit tighter. You're seeing less in kind of your field of vision. I think that would be really interesting to sort of try that style. I would not want to see a first-person style. I just prefer third-person overall, and I'd like to see that continue for Silent Hill, even though, PT was a first-person demo and everything, so understandable on that front, but I do prefer the third-person view, and I would like that to continue. New voice acting would obviously be a thing that we'd like. I mean, I have a soft spot for the cheesy, slow dialogue in the first game, but it's clear that new voice acting would definitely be needed for the remake and could really flesh things out even more so, and help kind of make these characters come alive even more. So I'd love to see just brand new voice acting on these characters, on Harry Mason, Sybil, Dahlia, Kaufman, Lisa. You could make a lot of those scenes, especially the scene with Lisa, a lot more impactful with even stronger voice acting and being able to do better cutscenes for especially that moment with Lisa. I think there's so much you can do there. Now, the one thing that doesn't need to change, and I'm pretty sure pretty much everyone would be on board with this, is the music. You'd keep the original music from the game. I think it's perfect. You might need to change a few things just within, the more kind of environmental music and some of the random sound effects that happen at certain times. But as far as the standard in-game music, I don't think anything needs to change there. Maybe you need to extend some music or whatever, make some minor adjustments, but the regular music itself, I think, is completely fine. Maybe you can add some new tracks, but again, this is more of just a wish list of what I'd like to see. So Konami, I think, would need to be very selective in who they do this remake treatment. I think a lot of us wish that it could just be put in the hands of Capcom and they would treat it a lot stronger. But I would just love to see this game get a remake for a multitude of reasons, as I listed. I think, introducing a whole new generation. I think it's been quite a while since we've had a true Silent Hill game, and I think a great way to start is kind of a fresh start. With everything that's happened with PT to now it's just like pachinko machines. That's all we're getting from Silent Hill. I think a remake of the first game would be like the best way to reboot the entire series and kind of go from there and just get a fresh start. And of course, people would then demand, if this was successful, a remake for Silent Hill 2 and 3 and go from there. So it could really just set things off in a great direction to give the series a refresh, because there's so much potential for this series with PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X coming up that there's so much more they could do, and I think PT showed a lot of that, with only the difference being I would like to see it in third person, but other than that, you can see there's so much potential there. So definitely let me know what you guys would like to see from a Silent Hill remake. Again, this is really just a wish list. There's no news of this, anything like this coming out, so it's completely what we want to see, and hopefully someday, after Konami realizes the success that Capcom's having with the Resident Evil remakes, that they finally decide to do something like this, because I think it is desperately needed. So let me know your thoughts on what you would want to see from a Silent Hill remake, and if you think it's possible given the circumstances of Konami today and how they're handling the series. Thank you.